Thank you for tuning into my presentation. My name is Caitlin Scudder, and today I will be talking about the globalization of education and how it relates to South Korea. I'd like to introduce you to the structure of education within South Korea. As you can see, there are three different levels of that education, starting from the age of 3 and continuing on to the age of 18. The first two levels, the preschool, elementary, and the secondary school, are part of a free public access system. As students enter the secondary school, there is a lottery system in place to help ensure a socioeconomic mix of students and to ensure that there is a fair level of access to all the different types of education. If you want to continue on to senior high school, there is an entrance exam, and there are two different forms, both vocational as well as academic high school. From there, if students want to continue on, there is an entire higher education system that I will introduce in the next slide. And there is a college scholastic aptitude test that one must take in order to get to that level. As you can see, South Korea's budgetary spending on education is the third largest amongst OECD countries, which is the Organization Economic Cooperation and Development, which is pretty significant to see that 7.6% of their overall budget is spent on education. South Korea has gone through many changes in their educational system throughout the years, but the modern Korean education system is part of their overall national project and is headed by the Ministry of Education, Science, and Technology, MEST for short, and they have taken the time to introduce a new set of policy initiatives aimed at closing the gap in student achievement between urban and rural schools, as well as advantaged and disadvantaged students. As you can see here, South Korea is comprised of a pretty expansive higher educational system. There are many routes that a student can take to get eventually to that doctoral degree if they do so choose. And that can involve starting off with an associate's degree, jumping right into a university to obtain a bachelor's degree, or even if they so choose to gain some work experience and then continue on with their education. Within the South Korean culture, virtually every form of opportunity, from marriage prospects to job prospects, depends on which high school you got into and which college you went to. The pressing contemporary issue that I chose to dive a bit deeper in regards to South Korea and their educational system is the number of youths in this particular instance are considered 15 to 29-year-olds that are under or unemployed. And the study, according to the OECD of NEETs, which are people who are considered not in education, employment, or training, the percentage they said for South Korea in 2013 was 15.6% of those students. So when you take the time to consider the expansive education system in place, along with the South Korean culture of education, how important that is, and how important it is to have a good job to continue on with a good life and support your family, why is that percentage so high? When looking into this issue a bit further of the youth or underemployment within South Korea, taking a look at that number is quite staggering, the 15.6%. And you wonder what's going on. Well, some of the information that I found is that students are having trouble with continuing their education, getting over those entrance exams, and staying motivated to continue with their education, and then being able to find a suitable job within the workforce. That comes into play in that underemployment. Sometimes students are finding it easier to stop searching for jobs after spending months, if not years, after obtaining that degree. And so therefore they, according to that NEET, they're not in education, and they're not in any sort of training or anything, but they're also not searching for a job as well. A lot of students are feeling a lot of pressure from their family, from their community, maybe even from their government to become successful, to maintain that honor of the family, and as I spoke to before, to have those top marriage prospects. With the numbers of the higher education attendees increasing, jobs that are suitable for those with degrees, they're no longer increasing at such a high rate. The ministry, the MEST, is also in the process of trying to update their curricula in conjunction with the industry needs and trying to place a heavy emphasis on collaboration between businesses and schools to try and make some internships that are available to vocational students as well as those in academia to try and get them some experience before they're out there searching for a job. So now that we've addressed the issue, let's take a look at some of the reforms that are currently in place or trying to be implemented in order to resolve this issue within the education and essentially the workforce within South Korea. Now, the first thing to take note of is that this is newer data, this is a newer problem, and so there aren't any immediate changes in place that we can truly discuss in depth. However, there are a lot of new policies that are trying to be implemented and put into place as soon as possible. Some are calling for some regulations on service sector jobs being lifted. So some of those, tourism industry jobs, things of that nature, there currently is a cap on the number of people that can be hired at a time, and that's mandated by the government. They are also looking for further support for small and medium enterprises and looking for jobs through payment and the working conditions. Employees want more money and they want to have better conditions, and therefore more people would be willing to look at those jobs and see them as a great way of life. The current president of South Korea and his administration is working on a plan to increase the employment rate as they realize that this is a true issue and they don't want to lose their citizens to going to other places where there are more job prospects and education in place. So in thinking about the educational system and this particular issue that's going on in South Korea, it's very easy to relate it back and see the similarities to the American issue within education and the workforce. Well, it's very exciting that unemployment within the United States has hit an all-time low overall since 2008. With the latest reportings from the labor statistics of labor, it has now dropped to 5.5% unemployment rate. However, when you dig a bit deeper and then you break down the information a little bit further, you notice that the unemployment for youth, which again is being categorized as that 15 to 29 years old, has consistently been rising to an all-time high of 12.10% this year. Some are saying that students are staying in higher education longer to avoid the bleak job market, and therefore when they're leaving the education system with a degree instead of just your typical associates or bachelors, some are leaving with a master's or even higher at the doctoral level, and therefore they are finding themselves severely underemployed and sometimes are therefore leaving the job market and giving up at times on that job search because they can't find a job that adequately supports all of the education they just went through and therefore the lifestyle they want to maintain. So in conclusion, we can see that the educational system for both South Korea and the United States are quite similar, and you can see that therefore they are having similar challenges in regards to employment concerns of their graduates. Ultimately, these countries can learn from one another how to improve their support systems and create more of these internships and vocational opportunities while students are still in school, so they can take what they're learning in the workforce and bring it into the classroom and make it applicable within the workforce while still having that mentorship. Thank you very much for tuning into my presentation.